Douglas Murray, thank you so much for speaking to us.
It's a great pleasure. As a writer and a journalist, I believe your job is to pursue the truth. The lies told about this country, to me, are intolerable. When I see people saying that, Israel is committing a genocide, I can't bear that lie.
Israel is actually doing the genocide.
The population of the Gaza has grown by 1 million in the last 15 or so years. So if Israel was trying to carry out a genocide, it's either the worst perpetrator of genocide ever or uniquely poor at performing that task. None of the stats support that ridiculous claim. It's such a weird smear and a libel of Israel.
You were also here a decade ago during the operation in Gaza, but at least from my perspective, the last year turned you from just another supporter of Israel into the clearest voice for the state of Israel out there.
I was in New York on the 7th, and there was a protest in Times Square the next day against Israel. These were people celebrating a massacre that was ongoing.
In New York.
In New York, in Times Square. And I said then that you should know, the Jewish people in the world should know, and Israel should know that you're not alone. One of the things that stunned me was that we have seen such an upsurge of hatred against the Jewish people for the massacre. Within 24 hours, the world's news was already talking about Israel's response. They weren't even reporting what had happened. They weren't even uncovering the horrors.
There was a special moment when you entered Lebanon, when one of our soldiers stood there and saluted you.
On behalf of the IDF, on behalf of my people, thank you very much.
Thank you. I was very moved, very humbled, and felt frankly ridiculous because, again, all I was doing was being in Lebanon to report on what was happening in Lebanon, and he was there to fight and to defend the people of Israel. It's not the same thing. Very special.
When you walk around in the streets of Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim, people recognize you by now?
Yes. And we have 3,000 people turned out to hear me and my friend Ben Shapiro, and it was a wonderful, very, very encouraging and warm evening. I'm doing a show in Tel Aviv on my own on December 4th.
You grew up in a Christian family, were educated in some of the top institutions in the UK, gay intellectual, seemingly on the direct path to the top of Britain's left-wing elite. And I ask myself, what went wrong?
I didn't want to lie. One of the things I've learned as a writer and a journalist is that you can either just report what you see with your own eyes, or you can try to pretend not to see. It's true that I've not been elevated to the House of Lords. I've not been given a knighthood and so on, but I don't seek any of those things. So very few people have the tiny amount of courage required to say who the relevant Nazis are today.
The headline in the German press quotes the Berlin police chief with an alarming statement: Jews and homosexuals are not safe in Berlin.
I wish that this was somehow a surprise, but it isn't. It's all been completely predictable. Who are the people who mean that Jews, gays, and others should hide their identity? It's not just the average German. After the attacks on Jews in Amsterdam recently, many people said these were Dutch citizens attacking Israelis. Were these Dutch people in clogs running out of their windmills and randomly attacking Jews on the streets of Amsterdam? No. Unassimilated immigrant population within Europe are the only population for whom anti-Semitism is mainstream, commonplace, and taught. One of my taunts to my opponents in the international arena is every pro-Israel demonstration, whether it's in Sydney, Australia, Toronto, Canada, they will finish with the singing of Hatikva and the singing of the national anthem of the country in question. Every single anti-Israel protest in Britain never finishes with the singing of God Save the King. Why? because they don't like Israel and they don't like the countries they're in. If you are a Muslim immigrant and you want to live in peace with your Jewish neighbors and you want friendship with your Jewish neighbors, stay, welcome, be part of our society. But if you think you're going to live in Berlin and hear sermons in a mosque that calls for eradication of Jews, and you're going to bring that out on the streets, no, you go. You go. Because you know what? It's not just the Jews who don't need you. Europe doesn't need you. America doesn't need you. The West doesn't want you. It was a historical moment, but it's not up to me to say what he may or may not do.
How often do you speak to him? And if I may, what do you discuss?
Whenever I meet politicians in this country or see people in the case, it's between us.
But at least can I ask you, how would you define your relationship with him? Is it friendly? Is it something that he seek for your advice?
I'm not getting drawn into that. I'm not arrogant enough to think that I should sit down with Israeli politicians any more than American politicians or British politicians and tell them what to do.
Douglas Murray, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you. Well, it's a great pleasure to be with you.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Djobnik signing off.